pastors are disciples of Jesus first, at least if they're doing their job well. And my next guest demonstrates that priority of following Jesus first better than most. Kristin Doty is the lead pastor of Sawgrass Community Church in Hollywood, Florida. We had this wide-ranging conversation where we talked about important things like her journey to faith and how God speaks to her. We also spent a little bit of time talking about her partner in ministry and life, her husband Jay. But we ended talking about how God has used her church and her ministry to impact people that weren't necessarily an obvious part of her assignments. Really interesting how she has been sensitive to where the Spirit is leading. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. Well, anyway, I'm thankful that you're willing to chat with me a little bit because I remember, I think you and I first crossed paths at the Ignite gathering 4 years ago, something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, it was a while back. Yeah.
Before these, and we were on this panel, and I'll never forget it because you guys started describing what your churches were like, and the first thought that crossed my mind is like, oh my goodness, I'm completely intimidated by that. And then the other thought was, man, I really want to go visit that church and see what it's actually like. So and I knew at that point I wanted to have a conversation with you about Sawgrass Community Church, and if I remember right, you all had moved a couple of times. Is that right? So
Oh, more than a couple of times.
okay,
Um, well, Sawgrass Community Church was started by John Bodecker. I believe it was in 1989. And so in all that time, I think we've tracked it out. Sawgrass has moved about 16, 17 times. Our third to last move, we actually moved probably about 25 minutes away from where God had been keeping us. That was in 2016. That was our biggest move. In fact, that's when God told Jay and I, "You're moving too."
oh,
So,
okay. So tell me a little bit about that move, because I mean, I heard you say it. It's like, okay, God told us we were moving. What prompted that? What was going on where you felt like you needed to? And then secondly, where you felt the prompt, and how did that process work out?
well, God had been speaking to me once the church had moved from Weston to Hollywood. Um, God had been prompting me. You're moving your family,
Hmm.
and I pretended I didn't hear it. I guess it's the best way to say it. I didn't tell anybody. I was like, moving's a big deal. It's really difficult. I'm just going to pretend I didn't hear that.
Yeah.
So,
Because moving the church 25 minutes is not a big deal, right? I mean, you can
right,
hop in the car and you go. Moving, on the
right.
other hand, 25 minutes is an
Yeah,
entirely different story.
yeah. And it's a different culture.
Yeah.
The church had traditionally at that point been in a city called Weston, Florida.
Oh, okay.
It's basically a place that was considered more middle class, upper middle class
Mhm.
than when he moved us the 25 minutes away. It was much more of a city feel
Or urban kind of a
rather. Yeah. In Hollywood, it's different. It's much lower middle class, I guess would be the best way to say it. But that's where, there's a homeless population. There
thing.
was no, if a homeless person ended up in Weston, the police were called.
Yep.
They were picked up and shuttled off somewhere else. So you can see God saying, I have a different ministry for you to do, and you need to move. So I mean, it just fit.
Mhm.
But But as far as us actually moving our family, that I tried to ignore it as long as I could, which wasn't very long in human time. It was only a couple months, and we had found a space in a church in Hollywood. They were graciously allowing us to rent from them, and so we had started that process. And then we had a pastor come down from the state of Florida, and she came down to just meet with me, see if I was doing okay. And in our conversation, she said to me, she said, "You know that God's going to have you move here, right?" And I just stopped dead in my tracks, and because I knew what God had told me,
Yeah.
and I hadn't even told Jay at that point. Because I was trying to ignore it. I don't want to move.
Oh, that's funny. So you get it confirmed by somebody completely outside of your normal circle. Oh my gosh, that's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I just knew God was speaking clearly at that moment. And so then, and that was October of 2016. And so then I went and I told Jay, I said, listen, this is what's going on. God's telling me this. And then I had it confirmed this way. So this is something we need to pray about and look into. And then he had had neck surgery
Oh my gosh.
beginning of December because he had been in a car accident and he had to have a disc replaced. And so just crazy things going on. And yet God was saying, no, I'm serious about this moving. So get on it. So, so in December, we're starting to look at houses in Hollywood. And the funniest thing was we couldn't agree on a house. We couldn't agree on what we were looking for. And it was just reaching this place of, okay, something's going to be done. We pulled into the church parking lot where we were renting space, and we said, this is God's idea. We just need to put it before him and say, you need to guide these stupid children of yours because we're just we're really messing this up.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. We pulled into the parking lot. We just sat in there and we prayed. And then the moment we said amen, we pulled up the app again to look at more houses. The first house we pulled up, I said, what about this one? And Jay said, okay, fine, we'll look at that one. And that's the house God told us to purchase.
First one, huh?
The very first one. Amazing, right?
That's great. Oh my gosh, that's really
And
funny.
even that story was just so God driven
Yeah.
because we went to look at the house and he wasn't excited about the house. He was like, fine, I'll look at it because we just prayed over it and God put it before us. And when we got to this house, we're in the house. This is the house we're in now. And so when we got in the house, I knew when we pulled up, I could just feel it. God was saying, this is the house I want you to get.
Wow.
And it was so strong. And I remember we were waiting for the real estate for the owners to show up. And I was pacing the sidewalk in front of the house, praying, saying, Lord, I believe you're saying this is the house, but I'm not the one you need to convince. You need to tell him. Talking about Jay. It's like, you need to tell him this is the house because, I got it. But, we're in this place, we're not meeting. And so we walked into the house. We toured the house. Jay and I were silent the entire time. We did not say a word the whole time we were
The
touring the
poor
house.
realtor. That just
And so we got outside with our realtor, and our realtor says, "Guys, what's the matter?" And we looked at each other, tears in our eyes, and
Wow.
said, "God said this is the house." And it was, whoa, okay.
So Jay felt that too.
Oh, yeah. That's why we were both quiet because the spirit was just, just telling us this, look at this, and speaking to us so strongly. I guess we just didn't have words until we got outside.
So cool.
And and on paper, we never should have had this house. Never. I mean, it just humanly impossible. Just absolutely impossible. And we prayed and prayed. There were mornings we woke up just terrified. Like, what are we doing? What what are we doing? We can't do this. And we would have to just go right into prayer. And after we finished praying, we'd say, no, God's in this. We have to do this. And so here we are. We moved into the house January 27th of 2017.
Oh my
Now
goodness.
we just started the house hunting in December of
Wow.
2016.
I moved fast. Wow.
Yeah. So he just, this is it. And the irony is that he moved us into an Orthodox Jewish neighborhood.
Wow. Okay.
And so, yeah, okay. Okay, Lord, I don't understand what you're doing, but so, and I remember driving around the neighborhood before we actually purchased the house and God telling me, I am moving you there for the people that I'm sending there.
Hmm.
So, so for whatever reason, the people that there are people moving into this neighborhood that he's sending that aren't here yet, and that's why he has us here.
So
That was,
you really felt that that was a strategic move on God's part, right?
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. There was no doubt because we had no interest in moving. We were very happy. And
Mhm.
God said, nope, you're moving.
I'm gonna go to Hollywood. Hmm.
Time to go to Hollywood.
Let me back the truck up a little bit. Did you go like straight into ministry, or what was that process for you?
Oh no, no. I um I was raised in the Catholic Church.
Okay.
Um and did the whole Catholic school thing. That was my middle school and high school. I was in an all-girl Catholic school. And Jay, he wasn't raised anti-religion, but God was just kind of there.
He didn't say grow
Didn't
up in a church though.
no, no,
Okay.
no, no. Yeah, church wasn't a big part of his growing up at all.
Mhm.
It was always, for me, it was always, I remember mom taking me and my brother to church every Saturday, Saturday, 4 o'clock mass. We were there. And unbeknownst to me at the time, I had been hearing from God my whole life, but didn't know it.
Wow.
Um, and so, but as I've looked back, I can say, oh, okay,
Sure.
that makes sense now. But
Sure.
I had no idea what all of that was. But so when I graduated and went off to college, I just kind of broke away from the religion.
Hmm.
I broke away from Catholicism and just because in my head and in my heart, the things that they were telling me about God, I was like, that's not God.
Mhm.
That's not who God is. But instead of turning more towards God, I turned way away from God. So I ended up at that time, I think in college, I dabbled in like tarot cards,
Oh, okay. All right.
crystals. I actually had a deck of tarot cards while I was in college. Um, and then Jay and I both studied pre-med. The plan was I was going to go to optometry school and he was going to go to medical school. And then life just took a crazy turn for us. And I got pregnant with our son.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that just kind of, okay. So those plans are out the window. But so he still went to medical school. That's when we moved to Philadelphia because he was going to Temple. We had our first son, our first child, our son there. And then we were there for a year and we went back home because it was hard.
Mm.
We were we were young.
Yeah.
We were 20, 22. So we moved back to be with family back to Massachusetts for him to finish out school. But I was still kind of dabbling in, I guess I wasn't anti-God, I was anti-religion,
Mm.
but it was coming out as kind of an anti-God.
Yep.
Um, so our family continued to grow. Our daughter was born, and then Jay graduated. We moved to Virginia, so he could do his surgical residency. That was 7 years there. But there was a woman there. She was a headmistress of a little school we had put the kids in. And funniest story. So she prayed and prayed for us. She was a strong Christian woman, and she just took a liking to our kids in a way that our son is on the autistic spectrum. And so she just had this awesome connection. She could reach him in ways that no one else could. And so that's how God brought a God figure,
Mm.
a strong God person into our life was probably through our son. Um, and so she was just a witness to us, and she was always praying for us. And I would always say, yeah, sure. Yeah, sure. Yeah, okay. You keep praying for us. And not thinking. And then I got pregnant with our youngest. And I remember this woman saying to us, this one is special.
Mm.
She has a very unique role to play in your life. Okay, didn't think too much, okay. I wasn't really believing in God, just taking it as it came. And I
Sure.
mean, I'm believing in God, but not
Yeah.
not to that level.
Right.
And so then when Jay finished his residency, we had to move again. And that's how we ended up in South Florida, because he did a fellowship, a colorectal fellowship at Cleveland Clinic in Weston, Florida.
Okay.
And so, but that started the whole school search for the kids again. Because at that point now they're, I think our son was just about heading into middle school and so on down. But our youngest at the time, we were looking for a preschool. Now I had said this was part of the anti-God kind of element was I will never send my kids to a religious school. I will never send my kids to a religious school. That was like, no, I'm not going to do it. And so when we moved to Florida, it was kind of funny because every preschool I looked at was full,
Mm.
of course, except for the one that was in a church.
Church one.
And so I
God's
just thought to
laughing
myself,
at you at this point, right? I mean,
oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, it was, I laugh at it. It's hysterical. As I look back, I think that's hysterical.
yeah.
And so I'm going through the motions thinking, okay, how bad can it be? It's preschool, right? How much God will we have to hear, right? Now, in the meantime, so she starts getting these papers coming home from preschool. And meantime, my friend in Virginia, she's still praying. She is still praying like crazy for us to find Jesus. And so our daughter is coming home with these papers, but they're God papers, but wait a minute. This isn't the God that I learned about when I was a kid. This is a different one. This is the one that I know is God.
Mm.
And so suddenly all the wheels start, wait a minute, there's something else to this stuff.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, like I was doing like feng shui stuff. I was still into the crystal stuff. I was still new age stuff.
Yeah.
As I look back, God's kind of revealed, like, you were just trying to fill the Jesus space with everything but Jesus.
Sure. Yeah.
And whatever couldn't fit, you would try another thing.
Mm.
So that's all I was doing until I started seeing the Jesus and the God that, hey, this is the God that I felt like I knew all those years, that they were not pushing me, they were pushing me away from. Because in the church, they were lightning bolt, right? It
Mhm.
was, don't do that. You're going to hell. Don't
Mm.
do that. God's going to get you. But I always knew that that's not God. That's not who God is. So, it pushed me away to all this other stuff.
Sure.
But ultimately, it brought me into the space where when my daughter was coming home with all these papers, like,
Mhm.
I think this is it. I think this is it. And then it was interesting because I came across, and I always have to be careful telling this part of the story in the Church of God
Mm.
area, because I started reading the Left Behind series.
Okay.
And so I know that's always the big no-no, but that's literally how Jay and I got saved,
Wow. Okay.
was reading through the Left Behind series. Um, I can't tell you which book. We read the whole series. I can't tell you which book it was that I finally got on my knees when that light bulb went off.
Mhm.
And I said, oh my goodness, this is what I've been chasing, but also running from my entire life.
Yeah.
Um, and then, Jay read them and same thing. For him, it got the wheels turning. That wasn't the ultimate trigger. For me, it was that's the moment.
Yeah.
Um, but once I got saved, then because I just went running. Okay, now I got this. This is what I've been looking for. Now, so we signed the kids up for Vacation Bible School
Mhm.
through the youngest daughter's preschool. They put flyers out. And ironically, it was Sawgrass Community Church that was putting on the VBS.
Oh, okay.
That's not the church we were at for her to do preschool, but that was the flyer that came home.
This is fascinating to me because I think sometimes we get hung up on the means that God is supposed to use to get through to us, right?
Right.
Now, theologically, yeah, I got lots of problems with the Left Behind series. But
Right.
if it stirred the pot,
Hmm.
do I really care? You know what I mean?
Right.
Those are the kind of
Right.
things where I, you know, I we get worked up that, it's got to be the Roman road or the sinner's prayer or, whatever it happens to be.
Right. Right.
When sometimes it can just be an offhand comment by someone. It can be something that you read that may or may not be in the theological tradition that you end up in.
Right.
Yeah, do I really care? God's going to use what God's going to use, and if He's the leader, then we're just kind of going to follow that. So I'm
Right.
kind of glad that you said that because I totally get what you mean. Like, yeah, you got to be careful who you say that around. But at the same time, God's going to use what God's going to use.
Right. Right.
And who am I to second guess the creator and sustainer of the universe, right? So,
Right. Of course.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I'm guessing that the church that the preschool was a part of was probably like in a Baptist tradition or something along those lines.
I believe they were reformed.
Oh, okay.
They
Yep.
were a
All right.
reformed church.
Yep. So on the opposite end of the theological spectrum, even, from where you landed,
Right.
but still, yeah. Yeah, those things are interesting to me, I think. Uh, you know, I the running joke in our household is I grew up Lutheran, but I ended up Wesleyan because I chose it. It's that kind of free will thing.
Right. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
same thing with you. It doesn't matter how it came to be, but it did. So I'm kind of glad that.
Yeah.
So then you or your kids go to the VBS at Sawgrass. Did you end up just kind of gravitating towards that church or what? And was John still there or was it a different pastor?
It was a different pastor at the time. They had been the pastor that was there, I think, was the third or fourth one
Okay.
after John Bodecker.
Okay.
Well, the VPS story is important only because that's how Jay got saved.
Oh, okay.
Our oldest, I said, yeah, he was middle school-ish at the time. And so I had signed him up for VBS. And that first night we were dropping the kids off, and he said, I don't believe in God. I don't want to do this. And he's like 12. So I was like, no, let's just do this. And we found $1 in the parking lot when I was dropping them off. Now he's a 12-year-old boy. So it was, oh, look at this. It's $1. I said, yeah, look what it says. It says, in God we trust.
Oh, well played, Mom. That
And
was
I said, so if you want to keep this $1, you need to stay here and do this.
love
And he did. He stayed all week. Friday night, we're watching the closing ceremonies and they're about to close in prayer. And they say to us, to the whole audience, hey, we have someone special that wants to come up and wants to close us in prayer tonight.
Oh my goodness.
And they call up our son. And he starts praying and he starts telling the story of how he didn't want to come because he didn't believe in God. But now he believes in God and he wants to thank God for this week at this church. And I look at Jay and tears streaming down his face.
Wow.
And that's how he got saved, because he said, if there is a God that can do that for my son, then I better start learning about this God.
Yeah,
And so that's how it started. And
that's amazing. What a great story. It almost reminds me a little bit of when we read in Acts how all of the people were in awe.
mhm.
And the Greek word is, phobos, which is fear. And we sometimes think that it's like, oh, fear is more like respect, until the moment God gets through to your child who's on a spectrum. And I can imagine, I mean, I know I don't know Jay real well, but that had to have gotten a hold of him by the lapels. And just I don't know how that doesn't shake you. I just
Oh yeah.
there's a
It
fear to
absolutely shook
that. It's
him.
like, oh my goodness,
Yeah,
that's so cool.
yeah,
Great
yeah,
story.
absolutely. I mean, because he would never have stood, our son,
Yeah,
he would never go up and be, but then to pray openly in front of a whole room full
sure,
of people.
sure, sure. It's not just a 180 degree turn, it's 180 degrees plus 10 steps. I mean,
Yeah.
he has gotten far
Oh,
down the
yeah.
road. And
Yeah. Yeah.
that's really amazing. So you're at Sawgrass. How did you end up getting into like straight up ministry that eventually you become senior pastor?
So that summer would have been 2004.
Okay.
I got saved in about February of that year, February of 2004. And so the dates are kind of important because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
March of March of 2005 is when I was diagnosed with the brain cancer. And so that earth-shattering.
Yep.
You want to talk uh faith by fire, that was it.
Yeah.
Um So we had barely been Christians for a year at that point. Jay maybe only about 6 months, if that. And we were just kind of thrown into that space of, but I know
What was his medical specialty, Jay's?
he's a colorectal surgeon,
Oh, okay. All right.
general and colorectal surgeon.
So I mean, obviously brain cancer isn't a specialty, but at the same time, he's not oblivious to how serious that really is. So,
Oh
oh my
yeah,
goodness.
yeah,
Oh, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine. So, my
right,
goodness. Okay. So that's March of 2005. All right.
yeah. Now our kids were still little. I mean, like I said, our oldest was only about 12 at the time, maybe 13 at that point. Our youngest was 4. So, very young family at the time. So fear, comes in.
Okay.
But like as I look back on it, I remember praying when I first, when you find Jesus and you've got that fire burning in you and you're just like, oh, what do I do with this? What, you know,
Yeah.
um, and I remember hearing a song from Sela, the group Sela, and it was all about faith, a faith that could withstand
Yeah.
storms. And I remember in my immaturity at the time, I remember praying, Lord, I want to have a faith that can withstand something that big. And he said, okay, here you go. Right. And that was the brain cancer.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. But, as I look back, I mean, my goodness, God just held our family together. I mean, there's no other way to describe just the faith foraging that happened during that whole ordeal. I mean, well, I didn't get healed with my walking till 2017, right? So,
Right? Yeah.
that was a long time.
Yeah. Yeah. No kidding.
But I mean that just kind of got the ball rolling in terms of shaping and molding and I guess the pounding, the clay that was being pounded.
Yep.
I guess that's the best way to describe it. When we finally got out of the fire of that moment, through the surgery, went through chemo, radiation. Um, it's a 10-year process before they'll call you healed
Yeah.
from brain cancer. And
Gotcha.
most cancer, but especially brain cancer. But so it was probably in the fall of 2005 where I had come out of a lot of that stuff.
Mhm.
And we were sitting in a town meeting for the church, and they were saying they needed office help. And so I could hear God saying, you need to do that. You need to sign up and you need to help. And it was the funniest thing because during the meeting, Jay's nudging me with his elbow. And I knew exactly what God was telling him the same message.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
And so the meeting's over and he looks at me, he goes, have you thought about doing some of that office work? Like, you think? Okay. So I signed up to help. It was just doing like the bulletin stuff that I could do from home. When I went up there to say, okay, I can help with the office stuff, this God is still laughing over this one. My one statement when I said, I will do whatever you want in the office, I said, but whatever. I said, don't you ever ask me to stand up in front of the church. That is the one thing I will not
Oh
do.
my gosh, that's so funny.
So I was doing that, and just got more and more responsibility. And then at one point, the pastor that was there had felt like God was shifting the church in a new direction.
Hmm.
And he stood before the church. I'll never forget that day. And he held up a blank piece of paper and he said, God is doing a new thing in this church. And it's just a blank page. He wants to start over.
Hmm.
And I knew that God was nudging me like crazy. You need to rise up. You need to rise up. And this is probably several months down the road from when I was doing office work, maybe almost a year.
Hmm.
Um, and I was just hearing the Lord say, you are to fill in this space. You've got to rise up.
Hmm.
And I just kept, no, I don't. My argument with him was, Lord, I don't know anything about running a church. I don't know anything about the church. I can't do this. And
Which is
his
probably the reason
response,
he asked you, because he didn't need somebody to be professional about it, right?
his exact words to me were, that's why I've chosen you.
Nice. Nice. Oh my gosh.
But I didn't understand what that meant until years later.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting in an Ignite meeting, right? I'm sitting in one of my first Ignite meetings, and they're talking about the new structuring. Like, oh, we need to throw this church stuff out, and we need to, it's going to look like this, and it's going to look like this and this. And I remember sitting in, and I'm in a group with a bunch of older pastors. I'm the only woman, and new at this,
Hmm.
new. And they're all saying, isn't this hard to understand? Isn't this hard? I'm like, no, this makes perfect sense.
Been there, done that, and you're probably wearing the t-shirt too. So,
so
wow.
so it was in that
That's
moment I finally understood what God meant when this is why I chose you. I don't want to untrain you. I just want to train you. So I went to the pastor at the time and I said, God's telling me that I'm supposed to come alongside you
Hmm.
and be trained up and to do this stuff. And so I became kind of the executive pastor
Okay.
or and took on more responsibility. Um, but then God started sending people to the church with health needs,
Hmm.
with cancer. And so, go figure, right?
Mm.
So I started meeting with those people, and then he actually sent a young woman. She had never been to our church. She drove by the church one day and she told her father, I need to go into that church.
Huh.
And she came in. She looked like she had been beat up, but it turned out she had just had brain surgery for brain cancer.
Wow.
And so I was able to just minister to her, and just so God just kept sending people with like health crises. And so I would just start meeting with them and not think anything of it. And then the pastor said, "You know, you're acting like a pastor, right?" And no, I don't think so.
That's not what you do. Oh my.
Because I'm just meeting with people. I'm just talking with people. So, and so that just kept nudging me. And so then that's when I signed up for credentialing
Okay. Okay.
and arguing the whole way, and
That's beautiful.
and God revealing through the whole process. Look at what I've done this. Don't you see where I prepared you for this? Don't you see where but just opening up like this box of saying, before we moved from Virginia, I was the president of the board on the kids' school or something, and had to give talks and things like that, but never like, well, this for my kids, you
Mhm.
know. But it wasn't until I went through the credentialing process and God started saying, "Do you see what I did there? Did you see?
Yeah, everything
I've
is
been
development, right? Everything is development. And
absolutely,
I think
even when
that's
I
the
was
next.
clueless and had no idea who he was preparing me to do his work. And that's what's just so awesome and so amazing. It's
React to the statement, because I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately. Everything that I have, everything, I mean, from the very, fact that I breathe and any giftedness, any experience, my spouse, my family, everything is from him, right? I mean,
mm-hmm.
and we
Yep.
believe this. But it struck me the other day is that there is one thing that I have, one thing, and only one thing that I have that I can genuinely give that I'm not giving back to a certain degree. Okay. And that's willingness.
Mm.
That is the only thing that I can, and I suppose that betrays the fact that I'm Wesleyan, I believe in free will and all that kind of stuff. But there is that sense where I'm like, I literally don't have anything that I can give that he hasn't already given me first. Okay, so
Mm.
you got the whole first fruits thing, and you got the,
Yep.
the dedication, and I get that. Accept my willingness, and I think
Right.
that for the vast majority of people, that's all God really wants is just your
Yeah.
willingness, right? And
Right.
and to be fair, it's willingness to feel stupid, right? It's
Yeah.
it's willingness to go out on a limb and going, I'm not comfortable. And anyway, as I'm listening to
Oh
you
yeah.
talk about this, and the wrestling with God, and really everything that you're kind of talking about comes down to your willingness to go, okay, I'll take the next step. Is that a fair kind of summary of at least that part of your experience?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
really
I
cool.
think it's I I'm a very stubborn person to a fault. And so Um, and so I guess, yeah, I mean, that's so much of my God time is me, really, God? Really? You want me to do
Yeah,
this?
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's
Are
so
you
much of it is
sure? Yeah.
wrestling. You'd think I'd learned my lesson by now. And I mean, I hope I've gotten better.
Yeah.
But
Just progress. It's just all we need is progress. Yeah.
yeah, but you're right. It's just the willingness to say yes.
Mm.
And that's what's in my journal so much is, Lord, help me say yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Help me say yes. I mean, because there have been things where, in journaling, and God has warned me, hey, you're about to go through a valley, a really dark valley. It's
Yay.
it's deeper and darker than you can imagine. And it's like, and you hear that, but you don't like, it doesn't like,
Right. Right.
okay, how bad can it be? Well, it can
Let me
be
ask that
really dark.
question. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Um, and so that there's these moments where um I'll say, Lord, help me say yes. And he says, do you really want to say yes? Do you know what you're saying yes to? Oh, well, I don't know. Well, maybe not,
Yeah.
but then you're like the disciples and you say, where else are we going to go?
Yeah.
If I don't say
Yeah.
yes to
Yeah.
you, what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. If I'm saying no to you, what am I saying yes to?
exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
Right. Sometimes I think even, and I know I've written this before, it's like, all right, Lord, I'm willing to be willing, even though I'm not willing right now.
right. Yeah, yeah. That's a good
Uh,
way to put it.
I'll take one step back and say, okay, help me be willing to be willing, because I recognize, and it's all fear-based stuff. Even when the Lord says it's going to be dark, and I think sometimes he says those things just to kind of test us a little bit, and are you going
Right.
to trust me through this part too? And I suppose too that, hey, the darkness is going to happen whether I'm with God or without God, so I might as well do it with God.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Tell me about how you ended up being the senior pastor of Sawgrass. You were executive pastor, you went through credentialing. What happened where you ended up going to the first chair?
Well, um, the church was, God was just doing a thing in the church. I can just say it that way.
Okay.
Um, he was stirring in the church. It kind of goes back to that blank page that the previous pastor had held up. We just didn't know to the depth at the time
Oh, wow. Yeah.
when he held up the page. Um, and so that pastor believed that God was calling him elsewhere. And
Okay.
so he put out some feelers, and then he got a position out in Michigan. It was just kind of the logical conclusion that, okay, well, here's Pastor Kristin. Let's just put her in that position. And that was that was pretty funny. That was another argument with God because I just could not. The thought of, I was like, I'm okay, Lord, I can be a pastor, but in this serving role, I can't do this leading thing. There's just no way. So, funny story, I had convinced myself that I was supposed to go to Michigan with this pastor.
Oh, okay.
Absolutely convinced myself. And the funniest story was, so here this pastor was moving to Michigan. And so I started seeing in Florida, we would see cars with Michigan license plates. And so I was just convincing myself,
It's a
see,
sign.
it's a sign. We're going to Michigan. It was, I had myself and Jay so convinced that we were supposed to go to Michigan that Jay actually he applied for his medical license for
Wow.
Michigan.
Okay.
That's how convinced I was that that's where we were headed. I was not staying here to be the lead pastor. No way. No way. That wasn't part of the plan. And so there's one day I brought one of my daughters to her singing and piano lesson. And for whatever reason, I sat outside it was at a home, and I sat in the car, and God said, pick up a piece of paper and a pen. I have something to tell you.
Oh, wow.
And so that was my first journal entry without knowing it was a journal entry. So, and that would have been, I think it was probably about November, December of 2015.
Okay.
And he said to me, you are not going to Michigan. I am calling you to be the lead pastor of this church. And I don't want to do this. He kept saying, I need someone that will bring healing to these people and bring the church back to basics. we need a foundation and they need healing, and I'm choosing you to do it. Okay.
Cool. Burning bush moment, right? I mean, geez, oh,
Pretty
Pete.
much. But in that time, God was raising Jay up and telling him to go through the process.
Does he still have his job as a surgeon? And he's
Hmm.
yeah, okay.
Yep.
I kind of
Yep. Yep.
that's good.
Yeah.
Good.
So I'm most of the responsibility is on me
Yep.
as
Gotcha.
far as pastoring, leading, and
Are you doing the bulk of the preaching and that sort of thing?
yeah, he preaches maybe once every 6 to 8 weeks
Okay.
when I say, hey, when you fill in the pulpit, because I need a break.
Need a break? Yeah.
But I get it. I mean, he's doing full-time stuff on the other side too. So
Sure, sure. I tell any board that I've ever talked to, I'm like, yeah, I don't have 52 in me. I just don't. I don't have 52.
yeah, right.
And usually it's 53 or 54 because you're going to have an Easter and a Christmas something or else that's going on
Yep.
midweek, and you still got to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't have it. And I think any pastor who says that they do are either lying to themselves or they're trying to sell you something. I don't know, because it's just an awful lot. Yeah, 50.
Yeah, it is a lot. Yeah.
So I'm glad that Jay's there to kind of give you that break every now and then. I guess kind of where I sort of want to land some of this is okay, yeah, it's some great stories. These are fabulous. So now you're in Hollywood and you've been there for a few years. You're lead pastor. What's the ministry environment like? Because like you said earlier, God brought you people with health needs at one point.
Hmm.
And you know, I don't know if that's continuing on, but it's like who do you find that God's putting in your path these days? What kind of ministry are you engaged in most of the time?
Well, even that I think it has shifted
Hmm.
since we moved here.
Okay.
When we moved to Hollywood, it was definitely, the homeless, or what we renamed the hopefuls. Um, Funny, I can tell you another funny story. So when just before, we were in the process of moving the church, and I was driving into this area just to kind of look at the church we were renting from, and the whole bit, and I was driving through an intersection, and I had looked over and there were a couple of homeless people there. And as I'm driving by, I'm sitting at the stoplight, and God says, I want you to go to McDonald's and get those people some food. I said, okay, but I don't, okay. Like this was like new to me. I had not, I
Yep.
had not gone up to feed homeless people, maybe some panhandlers you may, but not just cold like this. This was a whole new thing. Okay, so there's a McDonald's literally right in the next intersection. I pull in there, order them food, and I go back to the parking lot where they were sitting. Now, this is the funny part of the story because I pull into the parking lot and it's a store.
Oh, lovely.
So I look up and I say, Lord, what? I said, seriously, this, all right, new pastor in town, and she's going to the store.
You were just
And
in the
I
parking
just,
lot. That was it. So,
I mean, yeah. And he says, get out of the car, go give them the food.
oh boy.
And I was like, and I'm shaking at this point because I'm there's a store in front of me, and the homeless are over here on the side. And he's telling me to get out and feed these people. And he's saying to me, if you're going to serve this community, you're going to learn to serve the people. Get out of the car and go feed them. Oh, okay. So you just raised that bar. How am I going to say no? Right?
Hey,
So I'm shaking. I grab the bags, get out of the car. I go up to there's a man and a woman, and it looked like he had been beat up. And I said, "Do you need me to call the police?" No, no, no. The police are coming. We already called, and I fed them. I prayed with them, and just, I mean, when you minister and you get the blessing is greater for you,
sure. Yeah.
and it was one of those moments. I got back to the car and I just wept.
Mm.
And I said, "Oh my goodness,
Mhm.
I understand what you want me to do here.
Mhm.
And this is gonna be hard,
Yeah,
but I get it."
yeah.
So fortunately, there's been no photos thrown out anywhere of that pastor sitting at the parking lot. But I mean, and that's what he's always done. It's always been like we just said, the willingness.
Yeah,
Are you willing to do this? Um, it's Jesus, so yes,
yeah, yeah.
but hard stuff. So that's really kind of how the ministry started there, I guess, in Hollywood.
Okay.
And that continued. We we started picking up the donuts. That was the story you heard, right? When we would give out 40 bags of donuts every week
Wow. Okay.
to homeless people. I mean, we were really, I mean, just feeding people, praying over people as a church. I mean, it was huge. The ministry that we were able to do, that he enabled us. He just opened up the floodgates here. This is what I need you to do.
Yeah.
And then, but what we've seen more recently is a shift in the, there's still homeless people around, but because the culture has so tried to shut the homeless community down,
Mhm.
so it's really hard to find them.
Mhm.
Um, so God has, it feels that he's redirecting us.
Okay.
Um, I believe there's a stirring in me that I believe that God is about to move our church again,
Okay.
but it's a stirring. So I don't have any definitive. It's almost like a hey, be prepared because I'm going to move you again. Um, and but I think it's probably moving into more of a health related entity. I think that's where more of a healing along those lines.
You mean like healing prayer kinds of ministry, or are
Yeah,
you looking
yeah.
at, okay. So are you looking at like starting a local clinic or something like that? What, or see all of the above?
All the above, just healing. There, one of the things that God has done for Jay's office. One funny story is when God got Jay ordained, and I always just had this like, God's going to move you out of medicine. You're supposed to minister full time. It was just this broken record. And then last year, it almost came to a head where we really thought, oh, is it this moment? Is it this,
Yeah. Yeah.
where life was hitting us super hard. And so we thought, oh, this must be the moment. This must be the moment for you to get out of medicine. And as God always does, he flipped it and he said, no, you're going to the office. And so
Okay.
instead of taking him out of medicine, he's moved me in.
You know, this is so cool because I don't think you could have done that had you not done McDonald's in a shop parking.
That's true.
You know, I mean, the best way I can describe it, and it doesn't do it justice, but I think it makes the most sense. It's like you're leveling up. It's almost like a video game, right? You're leveling up, and it's like everything is a development to level you up. And really, God's like, do you really want this next level? It's not that he's trying to make us fearful, but he's letting us know that it's development, but that means there's more development after that, right?
Right, right, right.
See what I mean? And it's
Oh,
like you
absolutely.
look
And
at people
I've
stay
used
at
that
this level.
terminology, leveling up, because Jay and I have said that, okay, we're leveling up.
Yeah,
We've
yeah,
said that about, okay, what's next?
yeah,
Okay, are we going to another level?
yep,
Because,
yep,
but the cool thing about using that terminology of leveling up is with every level up, you get new powers,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
In the video game.
And
And so,
greater challenges. It,
yeah.
and again, it's that willingness. Okay, I'm willing to feel stupid. I'm willing to feel scared. And
Hmm.
there's this great quote that says, If you're tired, do it tired.
Mm,
Scared, do it scared. You know, I think
right,
it's said
right.
than done. Don't get me wrong. I mean, it's easy to say that,
Hmm.
but what you just described is the absolute embodiment of that, I think.
Jay was walking with a patient and he was describing to them my healing story. And it was interesting. And it was in that moment I heard God say, "That's why I have you here together.
Yeah.
That's the future of your ministry."
I think God brings couples together for certain things. I didn't always believe that, but the older I get, the more I think that's true. I think
Hmm.
that that cord of three strands is not easily broken.
Right.
There's more to that than I think what most of us realize.
Yeah.
And I'm beginning to kind of see that just within my own marriage and going, there's more to it, because when we
Right.
first started, I'm like, look, this is not a 2-for-1 deal. You're hiring me, and my wife is going to be part of the congregation, and I still believe that to a certain extent. But I realize now as I level up, right, this is my own development, right,
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
is realizing that no, there's more to why God brought us together than what I even realize. Which
Oh,
is cool,
sure.
right?
Mhm.
Which is a
Yeah.
really cool thing because you want to do those things with your spouse, even though sometimes it feels a little bit scary. Well, I want to kind of honor your time because we're looking at coming up on almost 2 hours. This has been a great conversation. It was so
It
much.
was fun. It was a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
of
yeah,
fun.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is great. Yeah, the church has a website, right? And
Sawgrasschurch.org, I think.
is there any other place people can connect with you?
Not really. And my website is kind of pathetic at this point, but that's okay.
Okay. That's all right. That's cool. Well, thanks again for chatting with me.
That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. And it was just so needed because Jay and I are just going through a thing. Um and it just I needed the reminder. It was interesting as I was walking through all of this stuff with you. I
Mhm.
could hear God saying, "You see, I was with you there. I was
Mhm.
with you there. I was with you there. So what are you so afraid of now? What are you so worried about?" So thank you because the timing of it was
That
perfect.
is the question, right? What are you afraid
Yeah.
of? Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So
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 true.
thank you for that.